Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Millennium Stage Concert Series. My name is Emily, and I play the oboe. And over there on viola is Yuri, and we are actually members of the Kennedy Center Opera House Orchestra, also known as the Washington National Opera Orchestra. So if you've seen any operas, any ballets, or Broadway shows here at the Kennedy Center, you've heard us and our colleagues play down in the Opera House Orchestra pit. Every once in a while, they let us up out of the pit to play on stage, though, like tonight on this wonderful series. And so this evening, we're actually going to be playing a program full of music that features the oboe and the viola. Now, these are two kind of lesser-known instruments, so we thought we'd start with a duo of just the two of our instruments so you could hear our sound, maybe if you're not as familiar with them. What you just heard was called Morning Elation by Peter Shevchik, and he's actually a violinist who is playing now in the Jacksonville Symphony down in Florida. So this was a very recent piece of music that he wrote. But now we're going to rewind the clock a few hundred years back to the time of Johann Sebastian Bach, where we'll be playing his very famous Goldberg variations. Now, perhaps some of you are familiar with this piece. It's originally written for piano, and there are 30 variations in this piece. Do not worry, we're not playing all 30 of them. That would take like an hour, which we don't have. But we found this lovely string trio arrangement of the Goldberg variations, where I'll be playing the violin part. Just a little background on this piece. Legend has it that there was a count that had insomnia and he couldn't sleep at night, so he wished that he had a piece of music that his in-house pianist could play for him in the dead of night when he couldn't sleep. I feel bad for the pianist, but Bach actually apparently overheard this, and he's like, oh, I can write something like that, and he came up with these variations. And the in-house pianist's name was Goldberg, thus the Goldberg variations. So now I'd like to invite my colleague Yuri on the viola to come back out, and also welcome Danielle, one of our cellists in our orchestra, to come join me in playing Bach's Goldberg variations. Please enjoy.
Hi, thanks again, everybody, for coming. And so when you have a funny combination of instruments like oboe and viola and cello or piano, there are not that many pieces written for this group. And so one thing we do to create programs is to play transcriptions. So transcription is where an existing piece of music is revised for a different combination of instruments. And so we're going to play such a thing right now. We're going to play the third movement of Brahms's Third Symphony as arranged for this group, but we're going to bring in a pianist. Catherine Brake is going to join us on the piano. Now, the arranger for this is a composer named David Plylar, who's actually an accomplished composer, and he's also an accomplished pianist and a concert producer. And he actually works over not next door, down the road at the Library of Congress, where he produces concerts. Now, this is actually a transcription of a transcription, because he first transcribed this for oboe and French horn and piano, and then he made a version with oboe, viola, and piano instead. So that'll be coming up next. Thank you. So Charles Martin Loeffler was born in the mid-1800s in Germany. By the age of 13, he was a serious violin student, so much so that he actually studied with Joseph Joachim, the great violinist who's associated with Brahms. After a time, he made his way to the United States, where he started out in New York and then went up to Boston, where he was the assistant concertmaster of the Boston Symphony for 21 years, and then resigned that position in 1903 to concentrate on composing and teaching. His style included a lot of influences. A lot of it was like impressionist, that's the word, and kind of all kinds of influences. And he liked to base his pieces on poetry, especially French poetry. So these two pieces are based on poems by Maurice Rollinat. And the first one is called The Pool. And the poem goes like this. Translation is, full of old fish, blind-stricken long ago, the pool, under a near sky rumbling dull thunder, bears between centuries-old rushes the splashing horror of its gloom. Over yonder, goblins light up more than one marsh that is black, sinister, unbearable. But the pool is revealed in this lonely place only by the croakings of consumptive frogs. Now the moon, piercing at this very moment, seems to look here at herself fantastically, as though, one might say, to see her spectral face, her flat nose, the strange vacuity of teeth, a death's head lighted from within, about to peer into a dull mirror.
for the second Rhapsody, there's also another poem that Loeffler put music to. This one is called The Bagpipe. His bagpipe groaned in the woods as the wind that belleth, and never has stag at bay, nor willow, nor oar wept as that voice wept. Those sounds of flute and hautbois seemed like the death rattle of a woman. Oh, his bagpipe near the crossroads of the crucifix. He is dead, but under cold skies, as soon as night weaves her mesh down deep in my soul, there in the nook of old fears, I always hear his bagpipe groaning as of yore.
Thank you for joining us at Millennium Stage. For more information about upcoming shows, please check out the Kennedy Center website or Facebook page. At this time, we ask you please head to the back of the seating area so we can save